Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Don't Give a Ruck podcast. I'm your host Nathan Parker, and joining me on today's show is the former Wallabies and Brumbies legend Ben Alexander. Ben is in fact the first ever member of the Don't Give a Ruck family to appear on the show twice, as he helped me dissect the Australian side Super Rugby performances, as well as having a chat about his dieting app, his blog and his upcoming fight with Terry Campese. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button and hopefully you'll enjoy the show. Hey Ben.
Hey, Nathan.
How's it going? Yeah, not bad. Yourself?
Yeah, mate. Jeez, you've gone from the shithouse to the penthouse quickly with your podcast. You're interviewing me, next thing you got half the bloody World Cup winners on you.
You were the trendsetter, but.
Oh, mate, every time I have my Facebook, I go, who's Nathan going to got Graham Henry and then buddy Steve Hansen and Campo and, well done.
That was mad that few weeks was. It was just, it was like, I got Graham Henry on. I said, oh, yeah, I got Steve Hansen coming on. He said, oh, I'll do it then. So then when he said he'd do it, when I said to Steve Hansen, oh, I had Graham Henry on last week, he said, oh, I'll do it. So that's how it sort of worked.
It's crazy. Then you just sort of just keep building momentum and you go like, if you've had how many World Cup winners have you had on now?
Lost count. It is weird. Like it doesn't really hit you because like I'm not getting paid for this. Like this is all my own sort of work and stuff like that. But you know, it only hits me when I'm drunk, I think. So when I'm drunk, I've got this thing of just going on YouTube and thinking, how did I interview him? Do you know what I mean? It hits you sometimes. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, it's just an awesome story. You're just having a go, and it just sort of shows who knows what you can do. You just set something up, have a crack, and I guess that's the power of the internet these days. You can put you in touch with anyone. So,
well, I was thinking,
mate, well done.
Cheers, mate. That's your next thing to do, a podcast, surely.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. Well, I've been blogging. Like, I'm really enjoying that. Just getting my thoughts out and on paper and stuff. But yeah, maybe.
Well,
I bought the microphone. I've got all the kit, all the gear, no idea, but I haven't hooked it up yet. So I'm just going off all the. You have to give me some tips.
well, it was only Christmas. My girlfriend was saying to me, "What do you want for Christmas?" I just said, "Get anything podcast related." So I've got a ring light there, which I can sort of turn off and then turn back on.
Your skin, I was going to say your skin's looking lovely.
Pity about the beard. And then I've got this little thing here, so it makes you look like your idea, if you get what I mean. But yeah. So no, you've been busy, haven't you?
Yeah, trying to stay busy. So we've been super lucky here in Australia with not that COVID's not a non-event, but in Canberra, I mean, we haven't had a case here in 7 or 8 months, and we've been super lucky here in Australia. The government's done a great job. So we had some issues last year, but we, life's sort of ticking on as normal. I mean, at the pub, we still had, like tonight, we would have had 120, 130 people in, so we're still allowed sort of 50% our capacity.
Yeah.
So the pub's busy-ish. It's not as busy as we could be, but yeah, everything's ticking along.
Yeah, because last time we spoke last year, well, it's coming up to nearly a year the last time we spoke, and you said everything was going smoothly even then. So has it got worse? Has it got better?
Did we talk pre or post COVID?
We talked. I think it was May. It was May or June last year.
Yeah. So what did I say?
You said everything's going smoothly. You said where you were, it was, there was hardly any cases.
Yeah, so we had maybe when it all first hit, we might have had 100 cases total, and then but we managed to Canberrans where we live. We're quite lucky. Everyone's pretty spread out, and everyone's pretty obedient. Obviously, we're the capital, and a lot of everyone's pretty well behaved here. So everyone did their bit, socially distanced, stayed at home. So we only had to lock down, I think, for about 8 weeks. And then things started getting back to normal where kids could go back to school. And we've only had since then, we had we had 3 or 4 cases. A chef came up from Melbourne. So Melbourne has had it here the worst. They had a second really big wave, but they had to go into lockdown for about 3 or 4 months, while the rest of Australia carried on as normal. But yeah, we've only had maybe 3 or 4 cases in, I don't know, 8 months now. So stadiums are back to full. Stadiums can have everyone. Cinemas are back to full. But pubs and a few venues are still at 50%, which is, I mean, that we can't complain compared to how you guys have had to deal with it over in the UK.
Yeah, it's been a bit crazy, really. So obviously, you get to a point where, you were missing the pub, but then you sort of get over that. But the one thing that I miss is going to the cinemas. I've been waiting to watch James Bond for over a year, the new James Bond film, and it's killing me. He keeps getting put back. I thought this film's going to be brilliant now. It's got to be with all the preparation they've had.
Surely you've just been able to just give a Netflix, or have you burnt Netflix out, burnt your Netflix subscription out?
There's nothing to watch. There's a comedy called Peep Show, which I've just watched on replay over and over again, and I can just do it line for line. It's ridiculous. It's just nothing to watch.
Is that Tiger King? Was that big in the UK?
Yeah, that was massive. Louis Theroux. I don't know if you know Louis Theroux, but
oh yeah, love Louis.
Yeah, but he did another sort of year-on documentary the other day on BBC. So that was quite good. It was amazing how that just sort of exploded. But that's the one thing that you remember from the first lockdown, don't you? The Tiger King, the Last Dance, as you just said.
That just in the corner. It was like my wife got me 30th birthday present. We've been hanging it up at the pub, but we just got it. So it's just sitting in the office now. But we just. But yeah, that was awesome. That Last Dance, that was something that was special. I think they brought it forward once lockdowns, like they released it, they rushed it to get it out because they realized, everyone's locked down, everyone's watching Netflix. Let's get it out there, and that was special. That was really special.
The worst thing about that was, I think after I watched that, I absolutely didn't really like basketball prior to it. I know you like your American sports, but after it, you just thought you could just hoop anything after watching it. And it's the same with Wimbledon. Like, when Wimbledon comes round in the tennis, everybody's got a tennis racket round. And then that's exactly what The Last Dance was like.
Yeah, well, I was really lucky. I grew up I lived in the States for 3 years as a kid. So I was there when he won his third title, and then his dad was killed, and then he goes and plays baseball. So I was living in the States during that, and it was just all the whole country ever talked about is what's Michael Jordan doing. And then when he came back and he beat the Sonics, that was my team. I was living in Seattle. And we thought we'd have a chance to knock him off, but he got I think it was ring. I mean, that was his 4th ring, and then he beat the Jazz in the last couple of championships. But he's a special man, Michael Jordan. He'll be remembered, for a long time.
The best thing about it was when he was filming Looney Tunes, and he was just he retired at that point, didn't he? And he had all the former, all the pros at that time take him on in that little practice arena that he had when filming. That was crazy.
Yeah, I didn't know all the stories of his work ethic when I was younger, but yeah, you're looking back, and especially having been a professional sportsman, it makes sense why he was so good. It really does. When you hear the stories about how hard he went at training and how dedicated he was, and then it makes sense. But that LeBron James lives up to it a bit. The bigger the stage, the better he played, and that's just. You have such high expectations whenever you put Michael Jordan on, and every single time you watched him, he delivered, or he even exceeded, he even played even better. And that's, they're very, very rare players in any sport. They just keep exceeding expectations every time they step on the field.
Yeah, crazy. Well, we talked earlier about, seeing my posts on Facebook. I've been seeing all your posts on Facebook. You've got the app, you've got your blog, you've got an upcoming fight with Terry Campese, which I'm sure we'll get into later. Firstly, I want to talk about the app, Alfred. Firstly, why the name Alfred?
Batman's butler. He helps you to go out and become the hero. So I love those three, The Dark Knight, Batman Begins and The Dark Knight Rises. They were like three of my favourite films. I love Michael Caine's portrayal of Alfred. Just, did all the quiet work behind the scenes so that, Bruce could go out and save the day. So I really liked that. And that's sort of really what Alfred, my Alfred, or the Alfred I've made, so that he's just there to be your right-hand man and help you out and get your work done for you so you can go out and become the hero.
Yeah.
So that,
yeah. And it's sort of a simpler MyFitnessPal, is it?
Yeah, we do all the work for you. So I loved MyFitnessPal and used it for ages when I was playing, but whenever a family member or a friend would say, I've got a few issues with my weight, I go, well, just track it. Use MyFitnessPal or use any of the diet tracking apps. And everyone would download it and they'd use it for a week or two and they'd go, nah, it's too much work. So that was sort of stewing in the back of my mind for a while. And then one day I was like, well, I'll just make one where I can do the work for you. So you just send me a photo or text and I'll do all the data entry for you. And that idea was about 4.5 years ago. So I started working on Alfred while I was playing for the last year and a half. And it got me out of, MyFitnessPal and tracking got me out of the dreaded Brumbies Fat Club, finally, because every year, most of all us front rowers, we come back from holidays and they do the skin fold tests and they'd go, geez, you've had a good Christmas, Ben, off to extra fitness for you. But once I started tracking, I managed to get my fat levels down to a good level and never had an issue again. And I still track to this day, but yeah, just struggling to get friends and family to use, well, not struggle to get them to use, but to help people see the value in tracking. That was sort of the impetus to start building Alfred. And the version we've got in the App Store now is actually the 4th version. We built 3, but we just couldn't quite get it working how it needed to. There was just bugs that we kept hitting. And but yeah, 4th time lucky. So it's got in the App Store Christmas Eve after 4 years of work.
Yeah.
And we've got about 600 users and we've done about 6,500 meals we've processed for people. So it's all going well, and hopefully we'll launch in Wales one day once we get we'll get over there one day soon.
I need it, but like you on about MyFitnessPal, my girlfriend started me on that, and it's just like, it's just so hard to like track the calories and get it like to a perfect sort of measurement. And that's what really annoyed me. But with yours, is it all about, do you take pictures of stuff as well? Take pictures of food and meals and then it goes into the app?
We do all the work for you. So you just send us a photo, or even if you don't want to take a photo, you just take you can send us a quick text. I ate this, done, send it through. Like, I had 6 pints of beer. Done. You send that down. We'll do it all for you. So it's me and some nutrition students from the University of Canberra. So we partnered up with the head of nutrition there, and it's all anonymous. So we don't know. It's not like I'm going, Nathan Parker, what's he eating today? Like I can't. It's all anonymous. So and then that's about it. So we just do all the work for you. And
that'd be the weirdest stalking in the world.
Yeah, well, there's been some interesting meals come through. There's been some very interesting meals come through, but it's all, we don't know who it is. And it's not about like us judging and telling you, you shouldn't eat this and you should eat that. I think there's so much mixed messaging, especially around diet on the internet. And one day I read eggs are as bad as smoking, and then the next day I read eggs are great. So I'm like, well, who do I believe? Yeah. So I've just blocked all that out, and I just focus on what makes me feel really good. And so I've obviously been tracking, and I sort of figured out what foods make me feel good, what foods don't make me feel so good. So we're just trying to build a tool to help people figure it out for themselves rather than trying to tell them what to eat. Don't eat this, don't eat that.
Well, that's one of the things that caught my eye, because I thought that's such a simple way of doing it, and I was gutted when you said I was looking for it in the App Store. I was like, I fucking can't find it. But hopefully one day you can get it over in the UK. But when you were playing, Ben, did you struggle with your weight? You've the shape that you're in now is quite unbelievable, and not many people will probably recognize you now. I'm surprised you've got a hoodie on as well. I thought you were going to be showing off some abs or something like that.
But I did. I was in Fat Club. I struggled my weight my whole life, and I just had to do crazy amounts of exercise. Like I was super active to try and keep my weight under control. I nearly got kicked out of the Brumbies Academy when I was 20 because I'd really blown out. I was on the gas, on the terps all the time, and not being professional. And so the Brumbies were like, Benny, if you don't get your act into gear, you're out. And so I could get into the zone and focus for like 3 or 4 months and try and lose the weight, but then I'd become super obsessive and very focused. But then as soon as I'd relax, I'd put all the weight back on, and I just constantly yo-yoed for my whole life pretty much until I started tracking. And then when I started tracking what I ate, I learned a lot about my own eating habits. And the main insight I got was I was in this cycle of either not paying attention to what I was eating and eating too much, or I would focus too hard and become too obsessive, and I wouldn't eat enough. I'd only eat salads, and I'd just become too obsessive. I could never find a nice, healthy balance. And that's the thing tracking has helped me do. It's helped me to find balance with food, and the weight's, it's actually been really easy to lose the weight because I had good exercise habits. It was just the eating part that I really struggled with. And 1 or 2 things with my sleep, and the weight's just come off, and not much
Bob's your uncle.
Other than that, it really is. Like weight loss can be. It is. People hate it when you say, "Oh, it's just eat less than you burn." And while to an extent that is true, it's not that helpful to say because it's hard to know whether you're eating less than you're burning. It's really simple now to know how much you're burning. You just check your Apple Watch or your Fitbit or whatever. So that the technology is really good to know how much you're burning, but to know whether you're eating just a little bit less, that's still not that easy.
What would be your best advice then? Because it's different out in Australia, obviously, but over in the UK now, my girlfriend's cousin, he's trying to get into the Cardiff Blues Academy, but he hasn't played rugby in over a year. And, you can just sort of see signs in some people where you think, are they going to return to rugby? They put on a bit of weight here and there. And what would be your best advice for the people that have maybe haven't played rugby in over a year now due to COVID and have maybe lost interest in it because basically they put on a lot of weight?
Well, for me personally, it's track your diet. It doesn't need to be every day. It doesn't need to be every meal, even if you just do 1 day a week. Because what I found when I track, I make better decisions about what I'm eating. If I'm not tracking, I just sort of, I'll eat this, I'll eat that. And that's what then, if I do that for a longer period of time, I put weight on. So when I'm tracking, I'm just making better decisions. I'm not making perfect decisions. Like I still had, I had Snickers slice yesterday, Snickers bar. And so I'm not eating perfectly, but I do eat a little bit better consistently when I track. So that's really the one thing. And then with the getting back into the exercise, it's just taking it slowly. Because you plow into it, you're going to get hurt and you burn yourself out. And if it's not fun, you won't keep doing it.
Well, another one of your side projects, which I mentioned earlier, was your blog, and I'll put a link in the description as well as the Alfred app. One thing that stood out for me when I read it first, I think it was last year you started it, about June time or May time last year you started
COVID,
it.
Yeah. COVID when the pub was closed. I had a bit of time,
and you talked at the start a lot about struggling with retirement and maybe how you sort of got over it and stuff like that. What made you want to get into that? It mustn't have just been COVID. You must have had some thoughts in your head that you wanted to get out there.
Yeah, with just the blogging specifically.
Yeah.
So when Alfred fell apart for the 3rd time, I signed up to go to university here in Canberra to learn coding. And so in the first semester, this was before COVID hit, this was first semester last year, one of the subjects I had to do was just a basic communication subject, just pretty much learning how to communicate and write efficiently, or write clearly and compel, or just write well. And the first assignment, we just had to write 2 paragraphs about Bitcoin. That's it. And I was like, oh yeah, I know all about Bitcoin. I'm a Bitcoin whiz. But so I went to write it down, and I just couldn't get what was in my head onto the paper. And I was like, oh, I thought this was going to be a real piece of cake assignment. Yeah. But it was actually really hard. I just couldn't get exactly what was in my brain onto the paper. And then then a few weeks later, COVID hit, and I once we got over the initial shock of sort of the world getting turned upside down, I sort of had a bit of time to think about that, why I'd struggled so much to write. So that's why I thought, I'll get into writing. And then I was thinking, well, what do I have to say that might be a bit unique? And I thought, well, people seem pretty interested, especially in Australia, because there's a lot of stuff. What's in the media, a lot about players retiring and having some mental health issues. So I thought, I'll just talk about my bit, about why I think retirement's tough, and these are the things I'm not saying I've got it down pat by any means, but I'm still transitioning. But I thought maybe I should just write about the things I've done that have helped me, and maybe that could help other people. Then why not? So. Because I'd written an article the year before, a blog, about I do parkrun every Saturday. It's massive in England. Yeah. And I'd written one about that, just about how parkrun had really helped me. Having that 5K run on Saturday helps me get my sort of competitive streak out each week. So for me, for my whole life, it was for 20 years, it was play rugby on Saturday. That doesn't happen anymore, but I still. Got 5Ks to do on Saturday with my friends, and we all try and beat each other, and we go hard, and then we go have breakfast and stuff after and have a coffee, just like
there's loads of you, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's awesome.
It's amazing.
There's heaps in Canberra. We got about 8 or 9 park runs in Canberra, and it's not a very big place. And I actually got my 100th park run this Saturday, so
amazing.
I'll get a little round of applause from the parkrun community. But I'd written an article about how much parkrun had helped me, and I'd really enjoyed that. So I thought, I'll get into writing, and wrote a few blogs, and people got some really good feedback, kind of like yourself with the podcast. You did a few, and you must have got some good feedback, and then you've kept going, and you've and no doubt your interviewing and podcasting skills are getting better, and I want to get better at my writing and my communicating, so I've just sort of kept going, and here we are.
We also mentioned earlier that you got a boxing bout with Terry Campese. Obviously, I think he's David's nephew. Yeah, yep. He's his nephew, and of course he played league over here with LKR and over in Australia. How did that come about?
It's one of the first times I ever actually answered the phone at the pub and at the dock, and I was like, Ben speaking, and it's Campo, Benny, it's Campo. Do you want to fight me for charity? And I said, all right, and that's about it. And that was when January of last year. So I got one session in, and then COVID hit, and then now that things have settled down and we can get enough, restrictions are loose enough where we can actually fit enough people in a big functional and raise some decent money, the fight's back on. So that's Saturday. The first of May. So it's 2.5 weeks away. So feel really good. Been training really hard, and I'm only ever going to do one fight. So it's like, I'll immerse myself into boxing, and just always had a lot of respect for the sport. Watching it, but I was like, there's a really good gym here in Canberra, the Stockade. And a few security guards that used to toss me out of nightclubs here in Canberra, they were boxers. They train people out of there. So, and the guy that owns the gyms, he's a Pom. He's an ex-British kickboxer, Gary Hamilton. So he's old Middlesbrough fan. He's got a few stories about his days in the Middlesbrough. Yeah. So Gary. So it's So no, it's been awesome. Really enjoyed the training, but I'm super keen to get the fight over and done with.
Yeah, well, it's quite sad that you said this could be your only fight. I thought, get Terry out the way and then go on to some of the YouTubers.
What YouTubers? What, like people like, what's that guy's name?
Jake Paul and Logan Paul.
No, I'm thinking of the guy, Kimbo Slice.
Oh, God. The back garden fights.
Yeah, he's dead though, I think. Now.
Is he?
Kimbo, but no, I think so. But no, well, in all seriousness, like, there's that big lawsuit, I think, in the UK. It's in the UK about the concussion.
Yeah.
And I was silly enough not wearing headgear for a lot of my sparring. And one of my second sparring round, I think, I copped a clean one to the side of the head and I dropped.
Did you?
And then I remember I remember all of it, but I was like pretty dazed. And I was like driving home and I can't really remember going to the gym, and I rush home and then sat down at my computer and started going, do I remember my passwords? Do I remember and I was like, oh yeah, all the passwords came back and everything came back and all good. But I was really lucky that I got out of rugby in one piece. And yeah, concussion's super serious, and they're only starting to know all the long-term health effects of that. So I've got one fight in me, and that will absolutely be my last concussion. If Campo gives me one, that will absolutely be my last, because it's one fight and done. I'm retiring 1-0 or 0-1.
Is the fight being streamed online, or is it going to be video of it afterwards?
Yeah, I think it's going to be on YouTube. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, tickets all sold really well and it's all sell out. So it'd be awesome fun. It's going to be a really good night. Really, really good night.
Well, I'm really conscious that we haven't really talked about rugby yet, Ben. But I'm quite enjoying this. This is quite different. I'm quite enjoying this. You're actually the first guest that I've had on previously that has come back. I'll take that as yeah. I've been asked back, so that's good. Yeah, you've been asked back. That's very good. And we'll talk again next year then. The Brumbies, I think the Brumbies played the Reds on the weekend just gone. I'm not sure if you watched it, but they just lost in the last 2 minutes. Of James O'Connor, I think penalty, I think it was.
Yeah, it was an awesome game. Game. And that's Brumbies have lost to them twice. So sorry, I'll take a step back. In Australia at the moment, there's the Brumbies and the Reds, and then there's the other three sides. So there's a really big gap in the Brumbies and Reds have both played some really good footy. And about a month ago, when the Reds were here, Reds scored pretty much last play. They put a little kick in behind, and I think it was Jordan Patea scored, and the Reds won by 2. So then on Saturday night, it was pretty much for first place, who's going to get the home grand final. And the Brums played really well. They led for most of the game, but James O'Connor got a penalty maybe about 5 or 6 minutes to go to finally put the Reds in the lead. And then the Brumbies were attacking their line, and they got penalty advantage, but then the ref sort of cancelled it for hands in the ruck, and there's a bit of blow up about that. But they just weren't quite good enough. The Reds were really good, and they were missing a couple of key backs, Hunter Paisami and this new rugby league winger for the Melbourne Storm, Barney Varlo. So the Reds have locked up the grand final, and the Brums they just got to win their semi. I think it'll be against Melbourne, but that should be a really good grand final. And there's 20,000 people at the game. I know that's not big numbers by any means in the UK, but for Australian rugby, that's the first time we've had sort of 20,000 at a Super Rugby game in years.
It was amazing because, over in the UK, that's all we hear about is, the Crusaders, the Hurricanes, the Highlanders, the Blues. And you don't always hear much about the Australian side, but I think it was one of the first times last week that I heard about that game, and what a great advert for rugby in Australia it was, and the crowd was there, and it was a fantastic advert for Australian rugby. Is the sort of feeling for the game out there getting better and better now? Because last year when I talked to you, it was in a bit of a bad state.
Yeah, we hit rock bottom. Absolutely hit rock bottom. So there's been a few. It's absolutely, that's the trend is it's on the up. There's still a ton of work to do. So the big piece of the puzzle was rugby union walked away from Foxtel, which was its main provider or the main distributor of the games. Foxtel's in a lot of trouble, obviously, with streaming and so rugby union decided that Foxtel had been a great partner for many years, but it was time to find a new broadcast partner, and they finally signed up with a free-to-air broadcaster in Channel 9, who also have a streaming service.
Yeah.
So now one game a week is on. Oh, so yeah, you guys in the UK, so you wouldn't understand. Foxtel is pay only, so it's like our Sky. So there was no games ever on free-to-air, so that anyone could watch it. It was only behind a paywall. But whereas now, one game a week is on free-to-air, and then the other games are on a paywall, which they've got Japanese rugby. Not sure if they've got European rugby on that subscription yet, but it's great. So there's games getting out to free-to-air, and they've got a better broadcasting deal. And they've got a new provider, Channel 9, who haven't showed rugby before. So they're putting a lot of effort in and really promoting the game and covering it in a positive light. Whereas there'd been a lot of Foxtel had been really emphasising rugby's negatives to drive the value down, so that Foxtel could then not, lowball them. And go, we're not X million pounds off the deal because rugby's, so Fox, it was really disappointing how that was covered. And now you go on Fox Sports, they'll never show an article about rugby anymore. So that was really just a disappointing end. That the relationship there had become toxic. But rugby, and so there was a bit of uncertainty and a lot of stress that rugby didn't have a broadcast deal here. But we've got a new chairman who's doing a great job. Got that deal done, so that's sorted. There's something 5-year deal, and so the game's got some stability there. We've got it the games are going also out to a new market, free to air, because rugby was always behind the paywall. And now it's obviously the next issue is the quality of the games. And when it's the Brumbies and Reds, when Brumbies play the Reds, the games have been awesome. Those two games have been two of the best Super Rugby matches I've seen in a very long time. But on the flip side of that, the other three sides, Melbourne are trying, Perth are trying, but the Waratahs have been dreadful.
I think they're on 2 points, aren't they? I think they're on the bottom of the table.
And they have no excuse. They have the biggest catchment of players, and they get and they're responsible. So that's also the biggest. Also, along with Queensland, the Waratahs are also responsible for. Well, they've got the biggest playing pool and the most kids to inspire to want to then play professionally and play for the Wallabies. So that's rugby's biggest problem at the moment in Australia is that we've only got two good teams. And the team that should be or that needs to play really well, the Waratahs, they're in all sorts. They just sacked their coach. They've lost a lot of experience players over the last sort of 2 or 3 years. So the things are on the up, but there's still tons of work to do.
Yeah, and is there the channel called Stan Sports?
Yeah.
I think. I don't know whether
it's owned by Channel 9. Channel 9 is a very big broadcaster.
Because I saw something. I think they put a video out on social media the other day, and it was I think it was Andrew Mertens talking to Matt Tamua prior to a game, and it was you could see there was new inventiveness there straight away, trying to talk to a player before a game. So it was Matt Tamua trying to take a kick from halfway. And it was amazing. It was something that I'd never seen before, because usually, I think they've tried to bring in talking to players at halftime now, just before they go into the shed and stuff like that. Are they trying to be inventive? And I heard the numbers up in Australia are more than they've ever been. Yeah, they're well up. The Super Rugby numbers are going real. I think the Reds, when the Waratahs won in 2014, they were getting huge numbers, and the Reds in 2011 they were getting huge numbers, really good numbers. So I'm not sure the numbers compared to that, but the numbers are. I think I wrote about it in one of my blogs. I think it's up 150% or 140% viewerships up on last year. Look, so that's great. It's really good. So we got people watching the game. Now we got to make sure the games are good, and the Brumbies Reds games are great, but the Reds and Brumbies Brumbies put 60 on the Waratahs, Reds are flogging the others. So, the competition, it's a bit predictable. We knew it's going to be Brumbies Reds grand final. That was pretty much, it's kind of, we need more stronger sides and creating more
just more good games to watch. Because if you know Brumbies and Reds are going to win and they're going to meet in the grand final, well, why don't we just fast forward to the grand final anyway? So it'll be a great grand final. Reds are going to be tough to beat, but I don't want to put the mocker on my Brumbies because they're still going to have to win a semi final, but against I think probably the Rebels, but they're playing some really good footy this year, the Brums. Well, then they played great footy last year, but things are on the up.
Yeah, it must be getting really exciting now for the Australian fans over there for the upcoming fixtures for the national team, because you look back to last year. I think we talked about Dave Rennie when he was appointed, and then a few months later, it was the Tri Nations really without South Africa in it. And the Tri Nations was there to be had, wasn't it? They got hammered by New Zealand in the first game, beat New Zealand in the second game, and then 2 draws with Argentina. It was a hell of a chance to try and get some silverware, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was just such a like that Bledisloe, that draw in Wellington, that's one of the best games of rugby. And the next week when we lost in Auckland, that was a cracking game when Callum Clark just ran amok. Yeah. That was a great match. And for us, being it was 1:30 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon and the sun was shining and it was just like it was awesome. It was so good. And that's like night matches are good, but afternoon rugby is just it's unreal when the game's played in the sunlight and just better conditions. Generally the ball's a bit dry. Sometimes in the evening you get a bit of dew and it can be knock-ons. But I mean, I'm really excited to see how, especially the Brumbies and Reds, go in this the second stage of Super Rugby. So when the two comps, Australia and New Zealand, the travel bubble's been approved, I think. So because I really think the Brums and Reds can, stick it to the Crusaders and the Hurricanes and the top Kiwi sides, and then if both those teams can, do really well, I think that bodes well for this rugby championship. We really do. The Wallabies will be pretty much all Brumbies and Reds, with just a few guys from the top performers from Melbourne and Perth, and maybe 1 or 2 Waratahs. But if the Brumbies and Reds can really play well, that's going to be great for the Wallabies.
Yeah. What's the talent pool like coming through over in Australia? Is there some young guns that maybe people over in the UK or in Europe maybe won't know about that is coming through?
Yeah, well, you'll look out for this wingers. What's his? How do you say his first name? Vani Valu, that's his surname. He won a grand final of the Melbourne Storm last year in the Rugby League. Look out for him. He is massive. Big boy, very fast. So I think, he's sort of another, not quite as big as sort of a Sammy Radradra, but he's sort of definitely, him and Korobidi on the wings will be, they'll be a handful. As far as, we've got Sidaleki Tamani back, big Tongan lock who used to play for the Wallabies. They got him back, so he'll be a good addition. James O'Connor's been playing the best footy of his career. Young guys, there's not really that many more young guys because Dave Rennie brought through so many young guys last year. All those guys have, I guess all those guys, pretty much all of them are all playing even better this year because maybe Dave Rennie picked them a bit early, but they've had a year playing international footy and they're starting to find their feet and really grow. So Hunter Paisami is playing really well. Jordan Patea is playing very well. It's good to have Nick White back in the mix here in Canberra. Another guy, who's another one that's growing? I think we're trying to get Isaac Rodder, I think, is coming back. That'll be a big boost. He's a great lock. But it's all those guys from last year that sort of got given a crack. There's a good group of them, especially the Reds guys. They're all playing well. And a young outside centre from the Brums, Lenny Ikatau, he's been playing really well. And Noah Lelesio, who was the Brums 10 last year and played 1 or 2 tests, he's been playing really well again. So should be good. And the Tongan Thor, look out for him. And Thor's playing. Yeah, he's playing awesome. He's something special. Him and Alan Alatoa, Alan Alatoa as well. They are 2 of the best tight ends in the world. So Yeah, we're super lucky in Australia to have those two of the best tight ends in the world. Tag teaming, having for instance, if Alan start and then you bring Taniela on when everyone starts tiring, it just glad I don't have to scrum and tackle them.
How the game's changed. What's the support like for Rennie over in Australia? Because I saw an article where I think Penny's been sacked now by the Waratahs a few weeks ago, and like a lot of articles were saying this could be like a stark warning to Rennie that if things don't go well with the Australian national side, that he could be next. And what's it like over there? What's the support like?
Yeah, ignore all that. That's just rubbish. It's like, I mean, you look back under Deansy. I'm trying to think of when Deansy started getting a bit of heat. It's your first year, you can't expect miracles in the first year. But I think if we haven't risen a couple of spots in the rankings and had a few good wins by the time, in 2 years' time, something might be asked. Because I mean, for Australia, I really think we've got to be doing a lot of planning for the next Lion series, and then the World Cup after that. I think we're going to be a bit young at this next World Cup, but that's why I guess we've got a lot of young guys now. And in 4 years or 3 years' time, when that Lions tour happens, all these guys, your Harry Wilsons and all these young fellas, just another 3 years international footy under their belt. I think we can have a really, really good side to give the Lions a good shake. And then if we can win that, a home series against the Lions, that'll be great momentum going into the next World Cup that Australia's putting a bid in. And that could really be the real sort of second coming of rugby in Australia again. We had the 2001 Lions series, and then we got to host the 2003 World Cup. Rugby's bank balance was great. And rugby, it was really giving rugby league a run for its money as sort of the second most watched code in Australia. But then since 2003, rugby's just been on this slow decline. And it hit rock bottom last year. So it was a 17-year decline from 2000. From that, when Johnny Wilkinson kicked that drop goal, seriously, from that moment,
mad.
There was a couple of Super Rugby. There's been a few bright blips along there, like Brumbies winning 04 and the Reds title and the Waratahs title, but since then there hasn't been much to write about. So from 2003, from that moment, rugby was going like this, hit rock bottom last year. I think it's now going like this, and I think we could hit a peak at that 2027 World Cup with a nice warm up for the 2025 Lions series.
Yeah.
So I think that's all the planning of Australian rugby should be around those two events.
Yeah. So the slow decline and then 11 wins in a row over Wales.
Yeah, well, that was one of that's a highlight. That's certainly a highlight.
Well,
there's the odd win over New Zealand, and there was some list. There was a win when we won in the High Veld, and then you win at Twickenham or Cardiff. There was one-off wins, but there wasn't that sustained period of success that the Wallabies of the late 90s, early 2000s had, where they won a World Cup final. I mean, 2015 World Cup final. That's a bright blip on a jet. I mean, of course it's not all down.
But I was going to say
the trend of rugby was down.
I was going to say because in 2010, I said this to you last time we spoke. I was about 20 yards away from you when you scored against Wales in Cardiff when Australia beat Wales in the Autumn Internationals, and I looked at that side with Quade Cooper, James O'Connor, Will Genia thriving. It was just sensational. David Pocock was unbelievable. And you just thought they're just going to go like that now. And after the 2011 World Cup, it wasn't like that. And it was almost like another second wave then for the 2015 World Cup, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it has been down apart from 2015 World Cup. There's a nice big jump there because the way the boys played and the way Michael Checker did a great job of just rallying the troops, and they just got on a roll, that 2015 side at that World Cup, and they just each week they went out and they believed they could win, and they just they played unbelievably well. But end of the day, but that was the rest of Checker's tenure was wasn't as good as that World Cup. campaign, because that's definitely probably Australia's proudest World Cup, apart from obviously the 2 they won.
Yeah.
The way the team played, like they played some really good attacking rugby, but just the way they scrapped as well. Like a Scott Fardy, like he's a good mate of mine. He just, I was pretty disappointed to miss. I got cut. I missed that squad, and so it's it's probably my biggest regret was to not be a part of that campaign, because they made everyone proud to be an Australian rugby fan for 6 months. Everyone was so proud of the Wallabies and how they played, and then the next year Eddie Jones rocks up and beats us 3-0, and then. All went a bit pear-shaped after that.
But it must give you some solace, though, because I mentioned that article on Rob Penny earlier and how it could affect Dave Rennie. But you look close to home here with Wayne Pivac. People were calling for his head in the autumn when we'd lost to Scotland at home and we got battered by France away, and how everything sort of changed. It does take a while to put your stamp on things. And I think it's happened with the Gregor Townsend with Scotland as well, because people were calling for his head during the World Cup last into the 2019. And now, look, they're on the rise, and they're probably going to have more players in the British Lions squad than England are, according to Warren Gatland. So, you have to give these coaches time, don't you?
Yeah, and it's like, it's great people who got such high expectations of their national side. That's great. Like it means they care. They want their team to win, and when they lose, it hurts them. And they go, "Come on, pull your socks up, do better. You're representing us here, so do it." You'd rather that than people just not give a shit and not even not even care. So that's great that people care, but it's got to be tempered, and there's got to be a bit of balance. And I don't know what Pivac's plan is. That he'd present to, I presume he'd present to whoever runs high performance at Wales. Look, this is my plan, and change takes time, especially after Gatland was coach for so long. How many years was he the Wales coach for? 12 years.
2000, 12 years. Yeah,
12 years. So there you go. So like, there's going to be a little blip and some change, and changing anything's hard, and just. But yeah, Wales will be right. You guys love your rugby. You'll be fine.
Were you surprised to see us finish top? Because, I don't know whether you get to see many of the games out in Australia, but, a lot of people were talking about England being the favourite or up with France for this Six Nations at least. But then you see Wales top, and then you see England fifth.
Top of six. You guys won the Six Nations. Sorry, I've only been watching my Super Rugby. You guys won it, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, well oh, I didn't know. Sorry.
No, we did, mate. We were awesome. I'm not lying.
Yeah, well, you're not fibbing to me. I keep hearing. So there's a Scottish lass. She used to play Jess. I don't know. What's Jess's last name? She's a front rower for Scotland for the Scottish women's team. And she keeps telling me how good Scotland's going. She's out backpacking and she's working at the pub. I can't remember Jess's surname. She has played for Scotland in the front row. But yeah, she's been telling me how great they've been going, and I've been seeing on social media Hamish Watson. Every second post about
he's unbelievable.
It sounds like Pivac. He's already the change is already done. He's already won your title, won your Six Nations. So
I'll give you a quick story of what happened. So basically, Wales played Ireland in the first game. Ireland had a man sent off in the first half. Wales go on to win. Wales played Scotland in the second game. Scotland had a man sent off. Wales go on to win. So obviously there was a conspiracy theory then that Wales could only beat sides with 14 men. So then we go up against England and we score 2 tries that were never tries in a million years. They were never tries. One was...
So you like playing teams with 14 men. What happens against teams with 13 men? Wasn't that Wallabies were down to 13?
Yeah, don't. How we didn't win that game. How we didn't win that game, I don't know. Australia's defence was unbelievable.
Yeah, that was unbelievable, that effort. How the Wallabies hung on that game. Sorry to interrupt. I just thought I
know you're taking the shine off this now. But we played against England. There was 2 tries that never were, but we still managed to put 40 points on them. And then 40. We come up against... Yeah, it was his first time Wales have ever put 40 on England. And then we hammered Italy, but then lost to France in the last play of the game to go for the Grand Slam, and France beat us in the last play. So basically, Scotland then, France had to postpone the game against Scotland a few weeks prior due to COVID. So then that game got rearranged for the last game of the tournament. So Scotland had to go to France. Scotland weren't playing for anything. Scotland had to go to France and make sure they didn't lose by 21 points or more. And they ended up beating France, and it was unbelievable. And we were relying on Scotland, so they won us the Six Nations. So yeah.
Oh, thank you. How's Big Alan Wynne Jones playing? Is he's still running around? He's still.
Well, it was after the World Cup, people were questioning him and saying, that's him done now. He had a bit of a hard 2020. People saying, he should retire. And then he had a bad knee injury, but it was probably the best thing that could have happened to him because he was out for like 3 months, and he's been playing non-stop rugby for the last since 2006. So he had about 3 months off, and he's come back like a new man. And now everybody's saying he should captain the Lions.
Well, there you go. Yeah, no, he's unbelievable. The fact that he's still going. Oh,
yeah,
unbelievable.
Amazing.
Remembered as one of the greats, Big Alan.
Yeah, but will you be watching the Lions tour this summer, or will you be taking a back seat on that?
No, absolutely watch that. Yeah, absolutely. We they're special, the old Lions tours, no matter where they go. So what's the schedule? Because I was reading that they were trying to Australian rugby offered. We'll host the games in Perth, and we've got friends in South Africa, and they said it's obviously the situation's not great there with COVID. One of my best friends from school, South African, and his dad sent me the article suggesting that the South Africa should go tour to the UK, and he, as a South African fan, he hit the roof. He goes, absolutely no way. They're coming here.
But we obviously over in the UK, we thought, it'd be amazing to get South Africa over here. The pubs will be open. As you said earlier, it'll be sunny. It'll be in the summer. We'll play the 3 tests at the Olympic Stadium, Wembley, and like the Millennium Stadium. There'll be packed crowds. We've all got the vaccine over here. It'll be all great. And then I think South Africa pulled out at the last minute and said we'd rather have it over in South Africa with no crowds whatsoever. No crowds whatsoever. I know, and that's the down part because the crowds make the Lions tours, don't they?
Yeah. That's.
But I think it's a shortened schedule.
Why is that? What did
there's
they say
4 games. There's 4 games, and then they're just having the 3 tests in a row rather than having 1 or 2 warm-ups in between the tests. But I don't know what's happening because basically the South Africa Rugby Union, they're in the shit at the minute. They're millions of pounds in debt because they haven't played rugby since, I think the last time they played was the World Cup final of 2019.
But surely they would make more money if they let the lot, like South Africa went to the UK and said, all right, UK, you host it, but you got to give us, fair whack of the gate taking service. Surely they'd make a shitload.
It's a backward mentality, though, isn't it? They're sort of cutting off their nose to spite their face. So it's like, when I said to Peter de Villiers about that, he said, it's got to be played in South Africa. And I was just like, well, there's going to be no crowds there. Your country's in disarray at the minute, rugby-wise. All the South African clubs have been kicked out of the Super Rugby. So basically what happened, that we made a deal with the South African clubs that they're going to come over to the European League now and play in the Pro. It'll be the Pro 16. So it won't be the Pro 12. It'll be the Pro 16. So all the league, the Pro 14 had to finish early to cater for that. But now the South African sides have said we can't play in it. So we had to finish the league early, deliberately, for the South Africans to come over, and now it's been cancelled. So what
are all the former Super Rugby sides doing then? What are the Stormers?
It's just
they're just going to play Curry Cup, are they? Or
they'll probably play Curry Cup, but they've gone like no rugby to be played prior to the Lions tour. And to be honest, when I saw that they'd cancelled because it was supposed to be called the Rainbow Cup. So all that they would come over here and play all the British sides, but the South African government have said they can't do that. But now I sort of think, well, if they're cancelling that, they probably could cancel the Lions tour as well, and that would just be, because our hopes are up now. We're really looking forward to it, and it's just
because they're World Cup champs, and the World Cup, they're the reigning World Cup champs.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome.
Yeah. Oh, mate, it's all up in the air. But Ben, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate, talking to you today. We'll probably talk again sometime in the future when you've had about 20 fights under your belt.
Nah, just one.
But yeah, all the best with it, mate. I mean, I'll catch you on YouTube somewhere, and
I'll fight Adam Jones if he's keen.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing.
If you want to hit him up, interview him and say, hey, I'll come over and fight him for charity. There we go.
I'll send this to him. I'll send that what you just said. You should be like talking him now. Come on.
He's good. He's another legend. He's another big legend, Adam.
But Ben, thank you very much for coming on, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'll probably get this out tonight over in the UK, so it'll probably be the morning time where you are. So if you could give it a share, that'll be great, mate.
Of course, mate. Keep it up, Nathan. Keep up the good work.
Cheers, mate. Have a good one.